Welcome to the Good Enough Gaming Podcast, where a few 30-somethings talk about all things gaming and nerdy. We dive into all the shows, games, and movies that us nerds like to indulge in. We celebrate our favorites and make fun of a few duds along the way. I'm your host, Kyle, and I'm joined by Jordan, Trevor, and Daryl as usual. Here's a small taste of what to expect on this week's episode.
I want my Men's Health magazine back.
I really needed to know about prostate health, okay?
Yeah.
This week's episode is entitled, Don't Get Antsy, We Got Nancy. En-Garde. There's going to be a fight. A card fight. Well, not really, but we'll be talking to someone that might be a bit more familiar with the premise. We have a genuine voice actor on the podcast with us today to put us all to shame in sound and accomplishments in life. Nancy Situ, a Canadian voice actor extraordinaire, has graced our presence to talk about all things that go on in the world of voice acting, whether it's in a popular animated show or in a video game. Nancy has lived many of our dreams, and now she gets to rub it in and make Jordan cry.
I don't know why I'm crying, but sure.
I mean,
Painting
Nancy,
one heck of a picture here.
first of all, Nancy, welcome. Thank you for joining us. It's I know this is an episode we've been looking forward to since we actually met at GameCon.
Yeah, doesn't that feel like it was forever ago?
It really does. And that was what, June?
Yep.
Yeah.
June.
Yeah.
Winter's coming.
Coming. It's already happening.
Yeah. It's
We're
come and
in the
gone
line
and
of
it's
that.
coming back. Yeah.
False winter.
False winter number 2.
Yep.
Yes.
I
So,
call that denial and error. Yep.
So, yeah, you're here to talk to us all about voice acting today, and it's a realm that I myself would kind of be curious in. I was once told by a teacher in school that I had a voice for radio. Preferably,
Not a
she
face?
didn't mention.
Are we sure she didn't say
mention my
face?
Yes, I swear I remember correctly. So, where does one start to get into voice acting?
So when you talk about starting, it's always really interesting because every voice actor has a different journey. A lot of us got started in theater. A lot of us started out as film or television actors, and we just made that transition into voice. I went hard into voice acting and just went solely into voice acting. I didn't do any theater outside of like high school. I didn't do film or television. I just went hard and went, no, voice acting's all I want to do. I found myself in a bunch of courses. I found a mentor. I found someone to teach. You're going to find that if you want to go into voice acting, the old mentality was move to the coast, move to Vancouver or move to Toronto where all the big studios are. That's the only place you're going to find work, which is a pretty broad generalization. There's a whole lot of work here. The local scene actually has quite a few studios that are around for both commercial and creative. It's just you have to find yourself in the right, genres of places to go. So commercial is going to be the one that gets the most work. Every single thing, every venture in the world needs to have commercials. You're going to hear it on YouTube. You're going to hear it on Spotify. You're going to hear it on, any platform that has advertising. They all need people constantly making new commercials to sell all their new things and their new sales campaigns and try our free 14-day trial. Da 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 da.
I want to be a Spence Diamonds person myself. But.
No, I will murder you.
We do not talk about there are people I know who will. They have like a permanent tick if you ever mention Spence Diamonds or Diamonds.
Really?
Permanent little like twitch right here. So
Who
now,
are these people? Who can I?
if you're just looking for a list of people to annoy, I have a list.
I'm looking for a list of people you want me to annoy. That's
what she's saying. just don't worry about that. It says hit list at the top. Just ignore that.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Ignore that part.
It just says list. I promise.
Yeah.
But yeah, like commercial is going to be where you're going to find the mass bulk of work. All the stuff that people normally want to get into, like animation video games, that's like 20% of the work that's in voice acting. And that's kind of just the reality of a marketing budget versus the budget for creative ventures. A new television show, a new video game, like those things are all very, very expensive. They don't count as the marketing budget for Netflix or Spotify. So you're always going to find that voice acting is a thing. It spans a whole ton of different industries. So finding your way into an industry that you really enjoy working in, that's going to be your first entryway. And of course, just take lots of education. There's so much to learn about voice acting, and it's not all common sense. I came from a tech background, and moving into voice acting was a stroke of luck. I started out because somebody wanted someone to do the IVR. A person actually tangentially was working on a creative film that they needed a voice put to. So they asked me to do that also. And that's kind of just where that took off. But that was definitely a stroke of being in the right place at the right time, not me intentionally going, I'm going to go to school for this. I'm going to go train as an actor. Whereas my business partner, Mike, went to university for acting. So we have completely different journeys that have taken different times, taken us through different circles of people in Calgary. But, you know, we met up at some point. Eventually, we made each other's acquaintance. We started working together. And now we have a studio and we teach. So teaching has also been a really interesting side of this career for me.
Cool.
How do I sign Kyle up for classes?
You send us an email and then you transfer us a little bit of money and we're good to go.
Have you ever
Punch
had
in
a
code
student?
GEG at checkout for 0% off.
Have you ever had a student that's unteachable? Because I think we found him.
Oh no, that's not possible. That's not possible. Okay, so being a student in public school is arguably one of the hardest things ever because you know you have to do this, but finding your motivation is hard. People who take courses for voice acting are here because of passion. And they know they want to learn this. It's really funny when students butt up against the business side of voice acting. When you're a voice actor, it's very much gig economy, right? You don't have like a consistent source of employment unless you're very, very lucky and you get signed on as like the next craft dinner brand voice. Something like really ubiquitous and prolific and like you're never going to run out of work from this brand.
Spence Diamonds.
3 new ads a week for the rest of your life. Like just never ending.
But unless you have the great luck of being employed by a brand and they want to keep you around forever, or you work like for Looney Tunes or something and you're the next Elmer Fudd and you keep Elmer Fudd as your voice forever. It's gig economy. You have to be looking for your next gig all the time. The job is not to win a role and to embody that role and to rock at that role. The job is to audition. Your job is to audition and audition well enough that you get work for it.
Just gotta catch him by surprise and get the gig forever.
So it would be really, really interesting if I found a student that actually didn't want to learn to the point where that motivation was just like, I'm not teachable. That has not happened yet. We will see.
Well, that's good.
If it ever does, but I doubt it.
So you mentioned when we started that you went directly to voice acting versus going through theater or that sort of thing. Like what made you do that? Like what sort of focused you in that direction?
First of all, I don't love the camera. I did not like being on camera. It's a whole different skill set. It involves this hyper awareness of your body language, body placement, how you look to the camera, how you build chemistry with other actors around you. It's a whole different skill set that I didn't personally feel like it would have that kind of high value to me. And maybe a lot of it is because I'm more introverted. I like sitting in my dark basement and playing video games and watching anime and, digging into the Wheel of Time or something. Like, it's like being in front of a camera was never something that I had an aspiration for. So it just never really struck me as something I even considered. I don't think it was something I really considered until people started asking, oh, hey, we have need for like extras or something. Would you be able to spare like a weekend and just come be an extra on a set? Like, that wasn't really something I ever thought about.
Mhm.
If you want to talk about things like what was a motivating factor in getting into animation, did you ever watch Reboot as a kid? Because I
Yes.
We talk about Reboot
Yes.
all the time. on
All
this
the
podcast.
time.
I literally just rewatched it all last year. I was
Did
like,
you
so
seriously? Because we did too. And we like found some 4K upscales that somebody had just put on YouTube.
Oh, that's
What?
awesome.
No way.
Dangerous.
Oh, I know. It was wonderful. But like, you get into these things and you're like, okay, wait, hold on. I know I have a child brain at like grade 2, but I know this isn't real because it's 3D animated. So who made the voices to this? And like, even as a kid, we got into the whole like, oh, this is what it looks like when Disney is animating to the actors who did the voices for Beauty and the Beast. This is what it
Right.
looks like when they're doing the recording sessions. And this is how they create characters from that. And it just struck me in such a place because Reboot was such this really soft thing in my heart that I love. And it will always be beloved by me. And it was so cool to know that Megabyte, his actor was in Beauty and the Beast as another bad guy, because of course he's got that vocal profile down. But just being able to start hearing your favorite voices, and then like a year later you hear those same voices again. I don't think I'll ever hear a role and not be able to tell that it's Steve Bloom or Mary Elizabeth McGlynn or Jennifer Hale. Like, hearing her in Mass Effect, I didn't know when I started playing Mass Effect that she'd be FemShep, but obviously I made a FemShep and I start playing. I'm like, this sounds really familiar.
Yeah.
And then of course, just so much correlating too. It's like you pick up Guild Wars like some X years later and you're like, wait, is that FemShep? That's FemShep.
I'm finding the same thing too. I listen to Critical Role quite a bit.
Of course,
and like Travis Willingham is in fucking everything. Like my kids are watching like Sophia the First cartoons on Disney Plus, and it's like,
I know that. Yeah.
that's Travis.
Yeah,
I know that voice, guys. Just the amount of work, like the body of work that some of these, very famous voice actors do is just incredible. And just
It's extensive.
the range of roles that you can act in without, again, like you said, without being in front of a camera per se.
And
That's
isn't that
like-
just one of the greatest draws of D&D too? Like, you can be anyone.
Oh, we're gonna get to that later, Nancy.
You can be anyone. Like, that's another draw for voice acting. It's really just that's the draw for acting in general.
Mhm.
But when you're a stage actor or a film actor, there's a whole lot more, makeup and design and costume and props and a lot more that goes into creating that character. But when it's voice acting, it's just your voice. You need to be everything that a film actor gets, but you need to only use your voice. If you're really, really lucky, you also get good sound design to go along with it.
fair.
Yeah. Now, when you're, this is like for you personally, when you're preparing to like start recording for any sort of role, is there anything special or like any sort of like ritual type stuff that you do before getting into like a character role, or is it just like sit down, work today?
Warm-ups are always something that you should do. One of the first things we teach our students is how to warm up, how to do it properly, and how to protect your voice from getting damaged from overwork. So warm-ups always, and if it's a character that you're reprising over a really long project, you want to keep reference snippets of your character that you can listen to get you back into it.
Okay.
There's a few different names that
Smart.
actors have for it, but we call them like keystones, right? You have a couple of clips of your character that really embody a couple of different atmospheres or tones for them, and you use that to get yourself right back into it. When I was doing Cardfight Vanguard, it got to the point where my reference clips were just so automatic. So automatic. The second I hear them, like, okay, we're going back into sweet Kumi now. She's sweet. She's your bestie. She's got you. She just wants to go and have, just want to go and have some croquettes from the shop downstairs. Yep, let's go do it. She's your bestie. She's your cheerleader. She'll get you going. Right? And like, there's only a couple of different clips of her that I need, and it gets me right back into it.
That's
wow,
super
that's
cool.
yeah. I
Just flip the switch on us there.
I know.
That was going to be my question. I was like, was that a character that you played as like a voice? Because you also get people who kind of voice act in their like neutral, normal voice sometimes. So I was curious about that, but obviously that was easily answered.
Yeah. So I'm also in a podcast series called On the Line, and that one's probably the closest to my natural speaking voice. Finding where your neutral zone is, like where your natural neutral is really important, because that's always going to be your baseline. It's who you are, right? It's who you are as a human. It's who you are as a person. And you adjust your voice from that base starting point. And so Kumi she's a sweet bestie. She's the girl next door. But, she's happy playing second fiddle to the main girl because, man, I'm your biggest cheerleader. And she has the exact vocal tone of me when I was like 14. So I had to dial it back to when I was 14. and that's it. She's a little higher. She's a little softer. She's a little bit more timid. She's not your main girl. She's not as bold as main girl is. And that's just where she is. And in the first course that I teach for like just getting into voice acting, we talk a lot about airbending because I love Avatar. And airbending is just my way of teaching how to feel where the air is in your body and how to use that to shape the sound of your voice. So we have like an entire couple of classes on just getting people to feel their breath. Anyone play sports here, you're going to know that you're going to get your strongest breathing when you've got your diaphragm engaged and your core is engaged. That's like the first thing you want to do. You want to make sure that your foundation for breathing is there. And then after that, it's just a whole lot of acrobatics of feeling where your air is resonating in your whole body. There's like 3 or 4 zones in your head where your voice can go, super nasally. Or you can maybe go a little deeper and more sultry. And there's so many places you can play with your air, and it's all about your diaphragm, your chest, and your head, and where your air is sitting when you're, trying to deliver a line and a feeling. I've
got to say, this is our most educational podcast yet.
Yeah,
by far,
100%.
I'm learning. So I know, and it's very interesting to hear you talk about that. I mean, both Daryl and I teach in a gym setting where we do have to like project across a gym, and thinking about like air bending and where the air sits in our body. That makes me think back to my own practice of yelling across a gym, for instance, and where I like load to,
Kyle's more of a Fusro Da kind of person, but
yes.
Look, that is to date the only game I have ever actually rage quit.
Skyrim?
Wow, really?
Yes.
Was it the ice troll?
When the game first came out, it was super, super buggy. I don't know.
Sounds like Bethesda.
Yeah,
that doesn't sound right.
Playing the game. Bethesda's had like years to actually fix all the bugs, but when it first came out, it was buggy as heck. And like when I was still figuring out the janky controls, and you're just wandering along the shore and along like just like through the world, came across a shack, and I accidentally hit the command for pick up instead of read because it was just some book. It was a shack. It was dilapidated. It was tiny. It looked like it was probably an outhouse that someone was living in. And there was no one around, but technically the book had an owner because it was in red. And I accidentally hit pick up, and I didn't want to pick it up, but the game doesn't exactly let you put it back. So, okay, now I'm stuck with this book that I don't want. That didn't really have anything interesting in it anyway. Whatever.
You took that guy's shitting reading material.
That was his Mad Libs.
That was TP, excuse me. I did some perfectly good TP. I don't know. Doesn't matter.
This is Archie comics.
I didn't even want it. It was his Archie comics, but like I didn't even want it. Now I've got this in my inventory, whatever, throw it away. The next time, like 2 towns later, I'm leaving town. There's a hit squad waiting for me outside. I am far too low level to be taking 4 guys, and I only have 1 spell. What do you want from me? So 4 deaths.
I want my Men's Health magazine back.
I really needed to know about prostate health, okay?
Yeah.
So 4 attempts at trying to either run away, get rid of them, or go back a save so I don't have to deal with this, and there's no possible way for me to get out of this. So now I have to resort to running backwards, kiting them across a field, and killing them very, very, very slowly.
Sounds like Skyrim.
Slowly.
Yep.
I had to do this for like 25 minutes.
Oh.
And I'm just, I'm so done with this. I finally get away from them. They're all dead. I loot the bodies. There's a letter who hired them. Guess who it was? There was a dog in that shack. And that dog hired a hit squad because I stole his book.
Jesus.
I was done. I'm like, I'm not. No. And that was it. That was the last time I played Skyrim.
That's
Alex can't read? What is this nonsense?
I'm one of the few
Stole
people
Clifford's
out there,
book.
I feel like. I don't think Skyrim's a very good game. And I
C-spot
know
shit.
I know I'm one of the few in
C-spot, hire hit
there.
squad.
Clifford
Run,
hires a
Nancy,
squad.
run.
Run, Nancy, run.
And that's how Nancy got antsy about Skyrim.
Mystery solved.
We figured it out.
Yeah.
Figured
Yeah.
it out. That was Nancy's first table flipping moment. As she was, trying to appreciate some of the actual like video game design that was in this game.
Of course.
It happens. It happens.
And then Bethesda happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bethesda all
Always
over.
happens.
All over it.
So, all right, I'm going to bring us back on track here.
No.
No.
Like we were off
happens.
track. Get real. That never happens.
No.
Get out of here.
So, Nancy, your most prolific work, I would say, is the Cardfight Vanguard, which we talked about, which you did 71 episodes.
Yeah,
If your
something
5 years?
If your IMDb is correct.
It should be, and yeah, it was like 5 years.
Oh my goodness! So how much time actually goes into recording like just one episode?
So we weren't simulcasting. So when the episodes aired, they would air in Japan a couple of weeks ahead of us, and then the English episodes would air like 2 weeks later. So we had like a 3-week window to record, get it all mastered, and then it would get released. Mm-hmm. So when we were actually booked to come in and record, we would record 2 episodes at a time because the minimum session time was like, at minimum, you get half an hour in studio. But there were times where, like, if there were episodes that actually heavily centered around my character, or I was doing a lot of incidentals for episodes that had a lot of people in the background or something like that, there would be a lot of like 1.5, 2 hour sessions where we'd come in. So every 2 weeks, they would book us in for at least half an hour, sometimes up to 2. And if it went over 2 hours, they'd have to find another day for us to come back.
Jeez.
Okay. So you would actually go into a studio?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
We've done some studio work too.
Easy.
Yeah. Let's preface that.
Yeah, let's dial it back a little bit here.
We spent 1 hour in a recording studio, but
An hour and a half.
that was such a cool experience just to go in and do that. I can only imagine, like, it probably, like, does it lose its luster after you're doing it like consistently for a work sort of thing?
Or like every time you walk in the recording studio, you're like, yes, this is amazing.
Yeah, honestly, you go in there and it's like, yeah, this is awesome. Like the studio I was in, they had so much, like so much signed artwork and like posters all along the walls when you were walking into your studio. It was kind of hard to forget where you were and who you were working with, proverbially. Like it was very rare that I actually got to be in studio with other actors around me. We were all scheduled for separate sessions because we would all come in, do our lines, and then the next person would come in, do their lines, and then they would get laid over. If for some reason I was near the beginning of the recording order, there would be a whole lot of no voices for me to play off of, which was always very funny. But if I was near the end and like maybe like the 2-3 lead characters for that episode had already recorded, I'd have a lot of the English cues from them. Otherwise, it was mostly just the Japanese voices that we went off of, and it's not quite the same, right?
Yeah.
Japanese has very different intention and energy when it goes into different emoting, and it doesn't super translate over one-to-one to English, especially North American English.
Mm-hmm.
So it was always very interesting to know who had gone in the booth ahead of you and then who was coming after, because sometimes we would write little notes to each other on our scripts. We have one paper script that is in the booth for each episode. You have a pencil, and sometimes I would see like who had marked up their lines, so I would know who had been in before me.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever have like just atrocious translations where you're like looking at it and you're just like, this can't be what they're saying in Japanese. Like this cannot make sense.
So that depends a lot on who's doing the localization and like the English script writing. A lot of the time, what they do down in LA is they have someone who is like the writer in LA does the translating and the localizing. But oftentimes, if we're in a rush and it's simulcasting, we may not have that person, and it's just the English script that someone over in like the Japanese company had sent over. And
oh man, that would be so good.
There would be like, don't get me wrong, those scripts are very indicative of like, did you ever watch like 90s subtitled anime?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So very much that vibe, and I kind of like that vibe, so it's okay. But for the sake of localization, you know, there's a little bit of a back and forth. If you have a very flexible director, you and the director can sort of work out phrasing that sounds better, more natural. Maybe it's like a reordering of the sentence so that it sounds better, or is just like something that a North American person would actually say.
Yeah.
You know, that sort of a thing. And then sometimes too, it was the mouth flaps. There was just this big 50-syllable sentence. There was only 10 mouth flaps. What do I do here? And it's not your place as the actor to question the script terribly. But if the director sees you struggling with it and, you know, hears the actual words being said and doesn't like the way it sounds, it's up to the director to direct you into a better performance. So having a really flexible director works out that way. Unless your director is the writer, in which case there's a bit of a conflict of interest there. And you just kind of, you know what? I'm just the actor here. I'm here to fulfill your vision, whatever that vision is. Direct me as best you can. I will work the best that I can. And hopefully that means that that's success for everyone.
And all directors are super accommodating, right?
Always.
I've worked with some fantastic directors. I've also worked with some directors who were not so skilled at the art of directing. It is an art at the end of the day. As a director, you have so much responsibility. You're supposed to know where the script is for everyone. And in your immense memory, you hang on to the performances that you've already directed and how they sound. And you need to be able to have the performances that come after it play into it so that it sounds like natural conversation is happening between these characters. Fantastic skilled directors know how to do that, and they do it very, very well. Directors who may be just starting out or aren't very good at working with actors, or maybe is overly attached to the script and not at working with directors and other actors, that's where it gets really challenging.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so at some point, you just have to realize this is above my pay grade. I am here. I will perform as best as I can.
Exactly. You just drive the tractor. You don't own the farm.
That's right.
Good analogy.
Okay, so are there any projects you're working on right now that you can tell us about, or is there any like characters you're currently voicing? I know you're doing like a podcast right now. Did you want to talk about that a little bit? Do you want to plug any projects you're working on currently?
There's a lot of stuff I want to talk about because I'm in the right like audience to talk about video games that are going to be fun. But NDAs prevent me from that, so I'm just
NDAs.
not allowed to talk about NDA
God
things.
damn it.
That's fair. We understand.
But you're
We
working
do have
on
signed
some
NDAs.
video.
That's right.
So you're working on some
I know. I
video
got
game
pretty excited
things.
when I signed my first one. I was like, okay, all right.
That's right. We got NDA exclusives here, so
Yeah,
that's better
right.
than nothing, right?
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Sorry, Trevor, ask your question again.
Sorry, but so you're saying, but you are working on something in the video game realm.
Yes.
Releasing
We're working on
in
two
the
video
future.
games right now.
Cool.
Ooh.
Nice.
So lots of fun. Oh, I want to talk about it, but I'm not allowed to.
That's okay.
But
We forgive you.
Yeah.
there is a podcast called On the Line. It is actually a fully voiced audio book. So the book has been
Oh,
written, and it is about anybody ever watch Sword Art Online or Log Horizon or any of those? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so similar concept. It is based off of an MMO, like a fictional MMO. Something happens, and then this delightful group of friends, this guild, is now stuck in the MMO,
Oh, okay.
and they now have to deal with the consequences of everything that happens to the world after that.
Interesting.
Well. If it isn't the consequences of my own actions.
Yeah. Fantastic character building. I really, really like it. And I didn't think it would make my heart so happy to see like MMO-isms presented in audiobook format.
Okay.
But it did.
But it did. It made me happy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no. And there's also some very interesting like dystopic Canadian politics that happen in the background of the story.
Oh.
You've piqued Kyle's interest.
Yeah. And maybe anger. I don't know yet which one.
Depends what direction we go.
Yeah, a little column A, a little column B.
The guild decides to sell the local healthcare system.
Vein pop.
That is very topical, Trevor.
Sorry.
Oh boy, is it a dinner table conversation time? Oh no.
Yeah, right. We're
Time for that awkward
Formed
Thanksgiving.
a convoy?
We'll give Kyle like a 20-minute break. We'll all just
guys, I just need some deep breathing right now.
he needs a minute.
We need some meditative assistance right now.
Yes. Yeah. All right. So I think we're gonna take some time to meditate. We're gonna go to our segment this week, and we'll be right back with you.
Papa! Papa! Papa!
Dad review.
Papa!
All right, welcome back, and welcome to Dad Reviews once again, where I talk about games that dads can play, short stints, long stints, when you're hiding in the bathroom,
Oops. stints.
something like that. Today's game actually was pushed to me by Jordan, of all people. Imagine that. This is a mobile game that came out a little while ago, and it's actually piggybacking off one of our beloved franchises in Warcraft Rumble. This game has sort of like tower defense kind of vibes. You're trying to overtake certain points, sending different units, and like a lot of unlockable different units, all of which sourced from the Warcraft franchise, which is great. You get a lot of callbacks to important heroes that you can use at some points. It's games take between 1 to 3 minutes or so. So if you need to go for a speed round, it's there. There's PvP modes and PvE, so you have a chance to, if you feel like being angry at other people for griefing you, you play some PvP. If you just want to fight a computer, you play PvE, and you go through a whole bunch of characters that like from the actual like Warcraft franchise. So Blizzard does a great job.
Kel'Thas?
Of integrating all these different Warcraft characters.
Just so many.
No more than 2 shakes, though, Kyle.
So many puns I could make about this entire.
And you're just playing with yourself again.
Exactly. Thank you, Trevor.
Just like to shout out that is a good Charlotte reference.
Shake it.
Just shake the PvP off before you.
Something Taylor Swift, shake it off.
There you go.
Oh God. All right, so we're back. We're gonna shift gears a bit with Nancy. We've talked about your voice acting career now, but I want to know about what, like, you've talked about shutting yourself in a dark basement and playing video games. What are you playing right now? Are you playing something right now?
Oh Lord.
Warcraft Rumble.
Oh.
Oh Lord. Okay, so for the longest while, I played a whole lot of Genshin Impact. As a very stubbornly free-to-play player, like, I refused to spend money on it that I didn't get awarded for free on Google Play or something. And it was good for a while. And then I started noticing that I wasn't feeling engaged with the story anymore. And I think it's because the story doesn't actually move.
Were you sick of Paimon referring to herself in third person when she talked to you? Is that...
Paimon takes offense to that.
Oh God!
Whoa!
That's like that is like the Na'vi reincarnate of modern video games. That has got to be one of the most annoying video game characters.
Yeah, but at least with Na'vi, it was just hey.
Yeah.
It's not actual full on like no filter mouth diarrhea.
Yeah.
Just a giant monologue.
Yeah.
So I play Genshin in Japanese. It makes Paimon a little less annoying.
Interesting.
Sorta. It's good practice, right? It's good language practice. But I started losing steam on it like maybe 4 or 5 months ago, something like that. And then I switched to another Hoyoverse game. I switched to Honkai Star.
Waifus,
Yeah, I was just gonna say, did you just switch to Star Rail? And you did.
Yeah.
And I did. Star Rail has been a little more interesting. I guess I was actually getting a little tired of action RPG, and the turn-based system was just a little bit more Final Fantasy X. You have turns, you can do things that affect the turn order, there's elements at play, you can build a really wicked dot team and just watch people melt. It's fun. I don't know. It's
Nice.
kind of mindless.
Speaking my language.
Yeah.
Final
Yeah.
Fantasy.
I was gonna say,
Turn-based is like, you just piqued my interest to the max.
I actually picked up, I turned on Honkai the other day. I was like, oh, I finished Spider-Man. I was like, oh, I've got some time. I was like, oh, I've had this sitting on my like PlayStation hub for a while. I was like, oh, I should try this out, because same thing, like Genshin, like for a free game, they are good.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
No,
tons of
they're
ways to
polished, yeah.
waste money, but I mean, that's no different than Diablo or Warcraft or any game right now. So it's like, if you're smart enough to avoid it, it's actually a pretty good content.
For a free game, for both of them, for free games, they're just so cinematically stunning that you can get over the fact that it's still a gacha game at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's still fun. Like there's a lot to enjoy. Genshin, I really enjoy just world exploration. That was probably the thing I enjoyed most about Genshin. I didn't actually care about any of the like weekly bosses, blah blah blahs. It's just fun exploring and finding more treasure chests and solving puzzles. That's fun. I don't have to pay attention to the story if I don't really want to.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing how the quality of free to play has changed from like the Angry Birds mobile days.
Yep.
Yeah.
To Genshin, which is like bigger than like Breath of the Wild. Like it's such a huge
Yeah,
game.
it's like Zelda anime is basically what it is. Yeah.
They basically took Breath of the Wild, its visual style, a lot of its mechanics. Like you get a glider in Genshin. Okay. You have a stamina bar when you're climbing cliffs. Okay. There's a whole lot of bloom when you scroll around and you look at the sun setting. This looks really familiar. Like it's extremely familiar in visual design and gameplay mechanic. They just wove an entirely different story around it. And they wove a way to continually introduce new characters so that you want to throw your wallet at it all the time.
Yeah.
It makes sense. Breath of the Wild was a pretty good winning formula for a lot of people who have attachment to Legend of Zelda. I'm not surprised that someone made basically a clone of it and then turned it into a gacha machine with anime waifus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
That's how they get you. It's the waifu.
The waifus?
That's how they gotcha.
You gotta catch
A
them
lot
all.
of waifu simps out there.
You gotta catch them all.
100%. There have been a couple of times where a character shows up and I'm like, mother?
Mommy?
But like, the same thing goes for Honkai Star Rail. The problem with Genshin now is that it's been around long enough and it's had enough expansions to the world that if you were a brand new player today, you would have such a hard time catching up. I had a friend earlier this year, I think, who tried to get into Genshin and tried to min-max the heck out of it. But it's hard.
Oh,
you
God.
can't min-max a game when you're not keeping up with its content, because when you are a brand new player and you get a character you can't farm materials for in 4 expansions from where you are right now, you now have this character taking up a character slot and you can't use them for 4 expansions.
Sounds problematic.
Yep.
Yeah. That just sounds like the issue with seasonal games in general. It's
Yeah.
You missed
have
out
to
and you're
play
left
it.
behind.
yeah. It's the only game you're allowed to play if you want to keep up.
That or you're really good at just binging through all of it, but there's so much content. I don't know how you could catch up in time.
Well, I feel like
It becomes like a second job.
oh yeah. Well, I feel like with those games too, like because it's free and because they're pushing out so much content that you want to pay for, like they've like, Genshin and stuff compared to Warzone or any of those other games, like they push out so much content because like Jordan's saying, like that's all people do. And if people run out of stuff to do, they stop paying you money and they just like blast.
Stop playing the game.
It's like weekly updates. Like I remember there used to be times like you'd go on like Twitch or something and you just get blasted with like ads for Genshin. Like this is the new person this week. This is the new person this week. It's like, holy shit. It's like, how are you guys doing this like on a weekly basis?
YouTube too.
Yeah.
Get lots and lots of Genshin and Honkai ads on YouTube.
Yeah.
For
Just
sure.
all over the place.
That'd be an exhausting game to develop for. It's like, all right, we need a new character in 4 days. Figure it out.
And yet, there was one time where like the Genshin 2.6 patch or whatever it was delayed because of like Chinese New Year holiday stuff and pandemic stuff, like kind of all compounded together into this long delay for the next patch. And people were so mad about that delay. They were like, come on, this is the eternal banner of Ayaka. I'm so tired of rolling for the cutest girl in the world. Give me a new husbando or waifu to roll for.
Husbando.
I forgot about husbandos.
It was just so it was funny. I understand, because when you're used to a game releasing at a very specific cadence and they tailor their events to match that cadence, it feels like it takes forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that shot them in the foot a little bit.
And the gaming community is very reasonable. Everything.
Yeah,
so
totally.
logical.
We are so reasonable.
So understanding.
Very understanding. Yeah.
So we were talking a little bit earlier. You sit on the board with Otafest in town, which is a convention festival, I guess, that celebrates Japanese movie art, culture, everything related to that. How long have you been involved with Otafest here in town?
So quick correction, I'm not on the board.
Oh,
Being on the board is so much work.
Oh God, okay.
I actually
You're involved with Otafest.
I'm involved with Otafest. I am a day of staff, so I'm a guest handler on day of the event, and then outside of it, I work on the marketing team.
Oh, cool.
Yes.
There you go.
But to answer the question, I've been involved with Otafest since 2008.
Oh wow.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. No, I've been hanging out with Otafest fam for a very long time.
Yeah, no doubt.
How long has it actually been going for?
I think Otafest only really became a thing in like 2002, maybe 2001.
Okay.
I mean, hold on, let's do some math. It was our 20th anniversary this year.
The website says 26.
Yeah,
The website says 26 years.
Oh, dang. 25th anniversary this year.
I pulled it up because I was trying to figure out Otafest. So
Yeah.
it's like, what
My
is
bad, I
Otafest?
can't math.
Yeah.
25th. I just
How-
remember for our
Yeah.
18th anniversary, we moved out from mom's basement. So we moved away from University of Calgary and found our new home in Telus Convention Center.
Oh, cool.
That's what I was thinking.
Nice.
Right. How do you get involved with something like that?
I mean, we're always looking for volunteers every year. Like it's a volunteer run, not for profit. No one's getting paid to do anything. And really just becoming involved is just putting your hand up and saying, hey, I want to help.
Awesome. And you also you're part of the Otafest podcast too,
Yes.
correct?
Yes,
Yes.
you can hear me spouting off over there too.
Yes. Yeah. So if you want to listen to Nancy talk more, the Otafest podcast, I actually listened to your Japan trip episode, which was I know Jordan will want to listen to because
Definitely on the list.
Yeah, ideas, trips, everything. It sounded like you had a pretty great experience.
It was a fantastic time. That was my third time back to Japan, and it never loses its shine. It's always beautiful. There's always something new to see, always something new to experience. And the views really are just unparalleled. Even though we live next to the mountains, like we grew up here,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we're used to seeing these beautiful mountainous views, and our sunsets here are just immaculate because of how far north we are and how slow our sunsets are and how they just set the whole sky on fire. Watching the sunsets in Japan, like I don't go there for the sunsets, obviously. I go there for the fact that they have this expansive history and it's just embedded in everyday modern everything. Like I have a shot on my phone. We're walking through a shopping arcade, and the shopping arcades there are basically like you take a hallway out of a mall, but you put it outdoors. It's still covered, but either end of the hallway is basically street and sidewalk. It's really, really nice because they're just sort of everywhere. But I'm just walking down one, and then you turn left, and all of a sudden you're just in a temple. Like they're just these really beautifully historically preserved sites, and they're just dotted everywhere. There is a very busy intersection that's under a highway. It's a pedestrian crosswalk, and right in the middle of it is this little shrine that they have kept preserved since before that intersection was built there.
That's so cool.
That's amazing.
Japan's wacky.
I think, yeah. Well, I think that's
So cool.
That's a very stark contrast to North America, where they're like, yeah,
Bulldoze it all.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So do you also speak Japanese as well then?
Very conversationally. Like I can hear, and
Okay.
I can definitely pick it up. It's so much harder to. It's like when I was studying French in public school. You get really good at hearing it and reading it, but piecing together sentences takes a lot longer, and therefore you lose that natural cadence of like natural sounding conversation. The problem with being a voice actor that really likes to emulate sound is that you get really good at saying the words that you do know, but Japanese people automatically assume that because you said those couple of things very well, that you know the language very well.
Yeah.
Right.
And at that point, I have to slow them down and be like, I'm so sorry. Can you say that again slower or switch to English? And they're like, oh, yes.
You're a fraud.
I'm paying with touch. And you're like, yes, I am paying with tap. Thank you. And it's very funny. There are so many like interesting everyday things that we take for granted here that are just different over in Japan. So first of all, no tipping. If you're going to go to a restaurant of any kind, no tip. Some people would actually be insulted if you tipped.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
Your servers are not constantly checking on you. They know that if you need them, you will hit the button that summons them. Very, very nice. The bill comes when they bring you your food. There's no rush for you to pay it, but your bill is there, so you don't need to ask someone for it when you're ready to go.
Efficiency.
Yeah.
I like that.
Efficient. People know how to queue. If you're lining up for a train, there are actual spots on the floor that you follow to line up, and everyone knows that when people are done exiting the train, it is now their turn to jam themselves in.
Oh my god, that alone would be kind of a breath of fresh air.
Getting jammed into a train?
Serious system in Japan. Queuing is taken very seriously.
Yeah.
I went to a very well-known souffle pancake place in Ginza, and I signed up for their wait list by scanning a QR code on a sign that is out in front of their building. It says, "We do not have a receptionist. Please do not come upstairs to the 7th floor. Please sign up for the wait list, and when you're first in line, come upstairs." You sign up. It tells you how long you are on the wait list for, and then you wait. And when it's your turn, you go up. Like, it's so simple that it's not
Crazy.
something that we do a lot here. And the funny thing is, when I first signed up, it said 380 minutes.
Oh, God.
How many hours is that?
It's like 5, that's like 6 hours. Six and a half.
6 hours, 20 minutes.
Six and a half, yeah.
Okay, so I went next door to go get lunch while I was on the wait list. When I was done eating lunch and I came back, I was first in line.
Oh, God.
Oh,
Because the sheer number of American tourists in front of me dropped off the list.
gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense.
So 380 minutes is not actually 380 minutes when you're.
It only took all those Americans an hour and a half to figure out how many minutes that was.
How do you wait? No, let's not go down the how do you read clocks argument again. It's more just like the how many X's are in ounces of pounds of what?
Yeah, how many feet are in a mile?
I don't know. What's a yard?
Thing condo people don't have.
Ouch.
Ooh. So aside from video games, trying to bring this back to the topic at hand.
Thanks, Trevor.
What if, since you're talking about what you've been playing lately, what have you been watching lately? What has been the anime or, I guess, popular show currently?
I'm trying to recatalog all the media that I consume. I recently kept up with The Wheel of Time. I have so many thoughts about it because I grew up reading the books, and watching it get adapted into a TV series was a whole lot of really weird mixed feelings. I won't go into spoiler territory. I'll just leave it there. We've been watching a whole bunch of older anime. And by
Nice.
older, I mean Log Horizon. I mentioned that one earlier.
Mhm.
I had never actually watched Log Horizon before. So my first time going through it and being like, this has that perfect like late 90s, early 2000s anime feel without being too much of an obnoxious part of that era of anime. We're also catching up on Psycho-Pass, and I don't know if anyone knows
nice.
what Psycho-Pass is. Okay, so Psycho-Pass had like 2 seasons and then like 3 movies, and like there's like this really long path of movies and series seasons that I need to catch up on. So I'm on movie number 2, but it is the first of 3. I think it's a trilogy. And then it goes back into another season, and then after that.
Anime is so confusing when they do that.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
So yeah, there's that. We're watching Free Ren right now. If you really like anime that hits you in feelings that you didn't know you had, that's a really good one. It is.
I don't have
about...
many left.
All right. Well, because you played D&D, it's about a long-living elf who is discovering that her experience of time actually causes her to lose things far too quickly than she's prepared for, because humans don't live that long.
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
Yeah, we're getting real into it.
Oh boy.
Yep.
All right. There's a fair amount of battle scenes in that one, so the fight choreography is very fun. Actually, yeah,
Sweet.
Psycho-Pass, the movies had some fantastic fight scenes in them. Delicious action scenes. What else are we watching lately? I think that's it. Oh no, we're doing a rewatch of Legend of Galactic Heroes.
I
didn't see any blinks of recognition there. Okay, it is a space opera.
Oh god.
Literally.
Oh god.
Is it a
It is
space
literal
rock
space
opera?
Not a rock opera, but definitely a political soap,
Ah,
because it
Interesting.
is
Again, you have
about
Kyle's eyebrows raised a little bit there.
Space politics?
Politics?
politics about a crumbling and potentially corrupt monarchy, but a well-intentioned monarchy
Kyle.
versus a corrupt democracy.
Kyle has no strong feelings one way or another.
Tell my wife I said hello. But the neutrals, you never know where the neutrals lay.
Yes. Okay. So we'd mentioned earlier, in talking to my sources, you're in a couple different D&D campaigns right
Yes.
now. Did you say that you were skipping a session tonight to be with us?
Yes.
Oh, that's high praise.
Oh boy.
That means a lot to us.
Wow.
As we know that like scheduling is the true like big bad end guy.
Because sometimes if you don't show up to D&D, you get signed up for multi-level marketing and shit goes downhill. Things happen.
We definitely did that in our campaign.
That I know because I have heard about this particular set of hijinks.
Heard about Quistith and her snake oil.
I'm not going to say who signed up that person for that.
Christith.
I feel like we could guess.
Yeah. So your D&D campaigns that you're playing in right now, are you a character or are you DMing?
I am a character. I feel that as much as I love the idea of being a DM, I don't think I have the mental capacity for it, because not only do you need to know the long game, but you also need to be able to weave everyone's stories into the long game. And sometimes your long game just goes out the window, and that should be okay. But I wonder if I would ever be okay with that.
You just have to have ADHD. It's just
Kyle's a very
It's a
efficient
super.
DM.
It's a superpower when it comes to D&D.
yeah.
But that's the thing, is that like my attention span is so, I don't know. It's fickle. It's fickle. Like I can hyper fixate on something for like a good solid couple of years, and then after that, just something just flips, and then I'm okay with it. I'm okay with where my experience level with that particular topic has gotten me. Thankfully, that doesn't happen with voice acting. But I am a character in a campaign right now. She's a bard, and she has mommy issues. Oh boy.
Ooh.
Her backstory is that. So let's backtrack a little bit. My DM started this out as a very fun, I just want to do a one shot. because it always starts
That's
out
how they
that
get
way.
you.
Gateway
I just
drug.
want to do a one shot, you know, and his particular thing that he just really wanted to do was that he just really, really wanted to play with level 20 monsters. Just really did. And I
Oh,
can't
dang.
fault him for that because that's always fun. Level 20 monsters just have all of these extra unlocked abilities. So he had several armies worth of level 20 monsters, and he built us 5 characters. He just made them. They were all different classes, different races, whatever. And then he just said, here's some character art. Everyone just pick one that you like. And he threw us into the last boss battle. He said, everyone's level 20. Here are your character sheets. Just have fun. You're at the bottom of a mountain. There's a big bad at the top. Go. And that was it. That was the one shot. And the one shot lasted like 2-3 sessions. It was over with pretty quickly. But the thing is that at the very end of it, he was like, well, that's it. How'd you guys like it? And we were like, kind of want to play more. Is that okay? Like, I don't want to impose. Like, DMing is a pretty big job. And so we're using Roll20. And he goes, oh, I'm so glad you guys want to play. Something pops up, and it's the epilogue of the battle. So at the end of the battle, the big bad has been defeated. He's disappeared. But something's wrong with the world, and the world implodes. All of the different planes and realms all mushed together into this really awful Frankenstein, and now we're all trapped here.
Sweet.
And that was the prologue. That ends up being the prologue for our actual journey. And so what he's done now is he gave us the first times free, right? First time's free. Just come have a good time with me. It'll be great. And if you're not committed. It'll be so much fun. And then, you know, you don't have to actually be attached to a character, and you're not going to need to commit to anything. Except he got us all hooked after the first one shot. And then now after that, he's like, okay, now that you guys do actually want to play, this is actually the prologue. And now you get to make real characters. So we all made characters. We all gave them like really, you know, different backgrounds. But the general setting he gave us is that it's been 100 years since the battle that we just did.
Oh, sick.
This has
cool.
happened, you know, the realms kind of just smushed together into this weird mishmash. And some of the humans and some of the other elves kind of established like a city, like a working boundary of magic to protect a city. We named it Sanctus. And then it's been 100 years since then. You know, a couple of key things that happened in that 100-year history. But at this point in time, it's been 100 years since then. Go. And so some of us were really attached to the characters that we had for the one shot. So I made a bard, but the bard is Celestine, the sorceress's daughter. But Celestine just like up and disappears like 50 years ago. And so Bard Girl has mommy issues, just like mom just like up and left. Like, what the hell? She never even told us why. She just left me and dad here. And dad's still getting over his depression about being left. And it just like, that was just one story, right? I've got 4 other friends who are also playing, and they all have very differing stories as well. Some of them deal with things like themes like, you know, not being the favorite sibling, or I don't know. One of them is a walking apothecary drug dealer for a whole lot of BJ.
Spice? You got Spice?
He is a warlock who has signed a contract with the devil, and that contract takes the form of a tramp stamp. That's very hard to read.
Yes.
My kind of character.
So hard to read. And it's just a fun time because everyone just has all these very different personalities that come out that we wouldn't otherwise have a creative outlet for, right?
That's why I love D&D so
I
much.
love D&D. So
It's
good.
so fun.
So fun.
Have you been playing 5th edition, or have you been trying out any of the newest stuff that they've been putting out?
We've stuck with 5e. We started with it at the suggestion of Meg, of all people. Meg,
Our mutual
Meg and
Mutual
I-
friend.
Yes. Yes. Meg, who Nancy and Trevor and Daryl and I all know. we had been talking and was just like, I want to play D&D. And she ended up suggesting, it was like, just order the books and we'll figure it out. And we put this group together and it's still going. Speaking of, I got to figure out the scheduling because
Daryl didn't ask how big the room was. He said, I cast Fireball.
I've also done that. And killed our entire one shot.
And I have definitely forgotten that you have to use silvered weapons or magic weapons when dealing with anythings.
Yeah.
Every time.
I was a werebear for a little bit. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I got bit.
Apparently,
I got bit.
We got dropped into a mine full of were-rats. And like no one had silvered weapons. And like one person had like any significant amount of spell slots. We were not in good straits.
I got robbed of my world title belt.
We have a very silly,
stupid uprising.
We have a very like Monty Python-esque D&D campaign. I feel like.
Yeah.
Love it.
Do you play more like rules as written, or do you play like rule of cool, or somewhere in between?
Mostly rules as written. DM does like to inject his own brand of creativity into things, though, so it's always very fun.
Sounds like a DM.
Last month, he introduced to us this really cursed image of chickens, but they have human mouths instead of heads.
I love it.
It was just incredibly cursed. I don't know if it was because it was an AI generated funny that he found, or if it was just truly a cursed thing that he had found that he just needed to put into our campaign for the laughs.
It's so ugly. I love it.
Trust rugs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Daryl doesn't trust any inanimate object anymore. If Kyle places it in a room, he's like, that's going to fucking eat me. Every time.
What's a DM's job if not to give the party PTSD?
Everlasting trauma.
Yeah, exactly. I think everlasting trauma is a great place to end for us. Actually.
It's a great band name.
Yeah.
Love it. Taking it.
Thank you, New York. We are. Jesus. All right, I gotta stop us here before Daryl takes us on a very strange journey.
Yeah, it's my fault.
Don't stop believing, Kyle.
Yeah. Nice. Nancy, thank you so much for joining us today. I would say this is by far one of the most educational podcasts we've had. I know I speak for all the guys. We really appreciate you coming on and talking with us, because it's great to speak with all sorts of different people in various levels of the industry in various parts. So we truly appreciate you coming on tonight.
Thanks for having me. It was so much fun. We could jam all night.
Oh yeah.
I gotta cut this off, or else it's gonna be like a 3-hour podcast. And it's just gonna
Sign us up.
Stories.
Absolutely.
So I think that episode was good enough.
Good enough.
Good enough for me. And I have high standards.
Good enough. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube for more content. We also invite you to write an email or join us on Discord to talk about anything from our episodes or something else you would like to discuss in the future. Please subscribe to the Good Enough Gaming Podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever else you listen to your podcasts. And remember, we might not be great, but we are good enough.